First up, Cyberpunk, the disaster. On December 10th, CD Projekt released Cyberpunk 2077 after years of development with quite a bit of fanfare, including a commercial with Keanu Reeves. To say the launch had issues would be a criminal understatement. The PS4 and the Xbox One versions have been reported to be totally unplayable, with frame rates at 15 frames a second, with the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC versions garnering a bit more rosier reception. Trey, who's at fault for this debacle?
You are.
I take full responsibility, and the investors that are suing them, they can come after me.
So I actually think there's a number of people that are at fault, and we can actually go back to some of our experiences, Chris, when we worked together. Obviously somebody made the decision to go ahead and release it. There's always a person or a team that has the authority to say, no, we're not going to release this, and obviously there's repercussions for that, or to say, nope, we're going to release it and we're going to deal with the fallout from it. And I'll kind of come back to that. The people who were managing the project, whether they didn't set proper expectations or they didn't keep the team on the right, on the proper path for the project. Now I say that also understanding, and I've never worked in the video game industry, but you hear all the time that everybody wants to be a programmer, but programmers are heavily overworked, especially when it comes to a large release like this. So I think that's an issue within the industry. But definitely the people that made that decision, and there's no doubt that it was a money-driven decision, right? We get it. The large companies like Activision or EA, or in this case, CD Projekt, they had to make a call to release it. No doubt there were people that knew that it wasn't ready. Now, what I will say, and I'll kind of wrap it up, and I want to get y'all's opinion on this as well. If they had delayed it again, then everybody's complaining that they delay it, right? But we also live in a world now where, because of patches and day one updates and updates throughout, we were talking about The Witcher 3, that I'm not saying it's acceptable for companies to release games unfinished, but it happens pretty often, and it's always bad at the beginning, and then as long as the game is good, once it gets patched, and I think everybody kind of forgets about that. The last thing that I'm going to say about this is the original Xbox One and PS4s are 7-year-old hardware, right? So I think the expectation has to be, okay, it's not going to run on 7-year hardware, but they did a very poor job of setting expectations with consumers, people that spent their hard-earned money in a very tough time, to go out and spend $60 plus tax on a game that you can't play, and especially something that you're really excited about. That's unacceptable for them to let them do that. So I think there's failures all across the board for that.
Yeah, and don't release a game for a platform if the platform can't handle it.
Right.
So I don't disagree at all that it's old hardware, but then they should never have released it on that particular hardware. And I think it's a good point that you made too. I think it was misleading for a lot of consumers.
Yeah.
Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yes, misleading. I think it's a bummer. I mean, I didn't really look forward to the game that much, honestly, until I saw the commercial with Keanu Reeves. I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I did a little bit more research into the game, but I just have a basic Xbox One, so no plans in the future to upgrade, because most of what I play right now is on that. So it's kind of a bummer that I probably actually won't buy this game.
If the reviews were that you could play it, would you buy it?
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Which is I think that's...
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No. I think it's an interesting point, and this company has a history of releasing games that push the boundaries, that require months, if not a year or more, of patches and updates to really get it to where it's really playable. I think the Witcher franchise is a great example. So to some degree, I think some of the more informed gamers should have known this was coming, but a lot of consumers wouldn't have realized that it was going to be to this level of problem.
It's also a reason, I know everybody wants to pre-download it and play it at midnight, or whatever time it was that you could actually play it. That's an exciting thing, whether it's a movie on release night or a game on launch night. But I do think it's a lesson also for consumers to go, well, if I just wait a day or two, the way social media is and Reddit and everything, if there's serious issues with the game, you're going to know right away. So yeah. I know personally, I waited till the 24 hours after the game was released. And the way you download it, or you can just walk into a store and buy a physical copy, it's not like the games are sold out to where you have to pre-order it or you're not going to get it. So that might be something for consumers to look at also.
All right, guys, let's wrap up the conversation on Cyberpunk and move on to the next topic, which is HBO Max film release strategy.
So